She saved for 6 years to get that down payment together. 6 years of packed lunches, canceled subscriptions, skipped trips, and Saturday mornings spent looking at listings on her phone instead of spending money she did not have. By the time she walked into that lender's office, she had done everything the responsible version of the story requires. She had the savings, she had a credit score, she had the discipline. The bank looked at her file and approved her for $390,000. The mortgage officer shook her hand. The real estate agent sent 17 listings by nightfall. Her mother cried happy tears. Her friends called it a milestone. 22 months later, she lies awake on Tuesday nights doing math in her head, not investment math, not wealth-building math. The math of which bill can wait 4 more days, and whether the noise the furnace started making last week is something she can ignore until next month. The house is real. The life she imagined inside it is somewhere she cannot quite reach. Nobody lied to her face. They simply handed her a number that answered a question she was never warned to stop asking, and the question was not, "How much house can I afford?" The question the bank answered was, "How much debt can this person carry before she stops paying?" Those are not the same question. And the distance between those two answers is exactly where her Tuesday nights went. My name is Williams, and what I am going to do today is give you the number that question never produces the real number, the honest number, the number that tells you not what a lender will approve on paper, but what your actual income can actually hold without the rest of your life slowly disappearing around it. Before we get into the math, I need you to understand something about the system you are walking into when you decide to buy a home. Because once you see how it is structured, the numbers stop feeling random and start feeling deliberate. Every single person in a real estate transaction, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the mortgage broker, the title company, gets paid when the deal closes. Not when you are comfortable 5 years from now. Not when your emergency fund is intact and your retirement account is growing and you took a vacation without checking your bank balance every morning. They get paid at closing. That structural reality means the entire ecosystem surrounding your purchase is quietly, consistently, professionally incentivized to move you toward a yes toward the larger house, the higher price point, the stretched approval, and completely unincentivized to sit across from you and say, "This number is going to hurt you. Here is a smaller one." That is not a conspiracy. It is just how incentives work. And the first thing you need to do before you look at a single listing is accept that no one in that room is running your number. You have to run it yourself. So let us run it. There are 2 numbers at the center of every home purchase conversation, and the gap between them is where most housing mistakes are made. The first number belongs to the bank. Lenders in the United States will approve a mortgage as long as your total monthly debt obligations, housing plus every other recurring payment, stay below 43% of your gross monthly income. 43% of what you earn before taxes, before the government takes its share, before the reality of your actual take-home pay enters the calculation at all. That is the bank's threshold. That is the ceiling of what they will put their name on, and it is marketed to borrowers as a qualification, which makes it feel like a green light. It is not a green light. It is the maximum load-bearing capacity of your finances before the structure begins to crack. The second number belongs to you. It comes from a guideline called the 28% rule, which says that your total monthly housing costs should not exceed 28% of your gross monthly income, not 43, 28. This is the number built not by an institution protecting its loan portfolio, but by financial planners whose only job is to make sure you can still retire, still weather an emergency, still live a life that has room in it for something other than a mortgage payment. The gap between 28% and 43% is 15 points of your gross income. On a household earning $90,000 a year, that gap is more than $1,100 every single month. That is money the bank says you can spend on housing. That is money that, if you actually spend it on housing, will not go toward retirement, will not go toward emergencies, will not go toward the slow, quiet costs of owning a structure that ages in real time and sends you bills you cannot predict and cannot defer. Now let me show you what this looks like when real numbers replace percentages. Take a $400,000 home, not a luxury property, not a sprawling showpiece, a house that exists, in a suburb that exists, priced below the current national median of $415,000. You have saved 10% for a down payment $40,000, which took you roughly 5 to 7 years to accumulate if you were being serious about it. Your loan balance is $360,000. At today's interest rate of approximately 6%, your monthly principal and interest payment is about $2,150. Every listing site will show you that number. Your broker will quote you that number. It will feel like your number. It is not your number. It is the most misleading figure in the entire transaction. Here is why. Add property taxes. Depending on your state, that is anywhere from $300 to $650 per month. Use $450 as a conservative middle estimate. Add homeowners insurance and pay attention here, because premiums have risen 48% nationally since 2020 and are projected to increase another 8% annually through 2027. Budget $300 per month because your down payment was under 20%. Add private mortgage insurance $275 per month. A recurring penalty charged to people who were not already wealthy enough to put 20% down. Finally, add maintenance. The standard planning rule is 1% of the home's value per year for a $400,000 home. That is $4,000 annually, or $333 every single month, and that assumes nothing significant breaks, which is a belief that will survive exactly until the first thing breaks. Your real monthly housing cost is $3,508. Not $2,150, $3,508. That is the honest number. That is what owning this house actually costs before you buy a single bag of groceries or pay a single utility bill. Now apply the 28% rule. To carry $3,508 in monthly housing costs within the comfort threshold, you need a gross annual income of approximately $150,000. The bank, using their 43% standard, would approve this exact same mortgage at $98,000 in annual income. Only about 20% of American households earn $150,000 or more, which means 80% of American households cannot comfortably afford a $400,000 home by any honest financial measure, and $400,000 is below the national median. We have built a housing market where the average home is genuinely unaffordable to the average household. That is not pessimism, that is arithmetic. Let me make this tangible, because numbers in the abstract are easy to intellectualize and hard to feel. A household earning $80,000 annually right at the national median scrapes together a 5% down payment and buys that same $400,000 home. The bank approved them. The agent congratulated them. The keys are real, the pride is real, the exhaustion is coming. After taxes, $80,000 becomes approximately $4,667 per month in take-home pay. Their full monthly housing cost, calculated honestly, is $3,191. That single line item consumes 68% of their actual monthly income before utilities, before groceries, before the car payment, before anything. What remains is $1,476 to cover every other expense of a life being lived. The math will not close. Not even close. And then the house starts aging. The water heater is 11 years old. Replacement runs $600 to $2,500. The roof was disclosed as having limited useful life, remaining replacement costs $10,000 to $30,000. The HVAC is original to the home's construction when it fails, and it will fail, and it will choose the hottest week of the summer to do it. The replacement is $5,000 to $12,000. These are not disasters. These are the scheduled, predictable, completely ordinary obligations of owning a structure built from materials that deteriorate. The bank's approval letter made no mention of any of them. This is what house poor actually means. not poverty, not a catastrophe, a beautiful home that looks exactly like the life you wanted, and an inability to afford anything else alongside it. No savings growing, no retirement contributions compounding, no margin for the unexpected, just a mortgage payment that works on paper and a Tuesday night full of math that does not. If this is landing for you so far, take 2 seconds to hit the like button. It genuinely helps this content reach people who need it. Now, I want to address the conversation happening in your head right now, because if you are between 28 and 45 years old and watching a video about housing affordability, there is a version of this where someone's parents have been mentioned at least twice in the last month. Your parents bought a home at your age. You have heard this. You will continue to hear it. What they are not saying, not because they are wrong, but because they do not have the framework to see it, is that they were buying in an entirely different economy. In 1980, the median home price in the United States was approximately 3 times the median household income. Today, it happened 5 times. 3 times versus 5 times. Your parents were purchasing houses that cost 3 years of their salary. You are being asked to purchase houses that cost 5 years of yours. That is not a discipline gap. That is a structural shift that happened over 40 years, while the cultural expectation of homeownership at a certain age stayed perfectly frozen in place. And before the interest rate argument arrives, yes, rates in 1980 reached 13%. Monthly payments were genuinely painful, but the purchase price was reachable. A down payment could be saved in 2 or 3 years instead of 6 or 7. And when rates fell, they refinanced. You can refinance your rate. You cannot refinance the purchase price. The number on the contract is the number on the contract, permanently, regardless of what rates do afterward. College cost $738 per year in 1980. The average car payment was $153. Their generation entered adulthood without the student loan balance that shadows the first 15 years of your financial life. They bought homes on single incomes because a single income could actually carry a household. Today, 2 incomes are often required just to qualify, and even combined, they are stretched in ways no previous generation was asked to manage. You are not failing at something your parents found easy. The game changed. The scoreboard did not. And if you are genuinely getting value from this, consider subscribing. I make videos like this every single week. No hype, no shortcuts, just the honest numbers and what they mean for your actual life. So here is what you do with everything you now know. The first thing before you open a single listing, before you talk to a single agent, before you let anyone show you a kitchen, is to calculate your real housing number. Take your gross monthly income and multiply it by 0.28. That is your ceiling. That is the maximum total monthly housing cost that leaves the rest of your financial life intact. Then, for any home you are considering, add up the full and honest monthly cost. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, PMI, if applicable, and 1% of the purchase price divided by 12 for maintenance. If that total exceeds your ceiling, the house is not affordable, not because the bank said so, because your life said so. The second thing is to clear your debt picture before you apply. Every $250 per month in existing debt payments reduces your effective mortgage qualification by approximately $40,000. A $500 car payment and a $400 student loan minimum have already removed $140,000 from your buying power before you fill out a single form. Reducing or eliminating those payments before entering the housing market changes your qualification range more dramatically than almost any other preparation. The third thing is to think honestly about geography. $500,000 buys a 600 square foot studio in San Francisco. In Cleveland, it buys 4,000 square feet of historic architecture in one of the city's finest neighborhoods. These are not different versions of the same purchase. They have different financial lives wearing the same price tag. If your income is real and your target city is coastal California or Manhattan or Seattle, you are not failing. You are attempting something that the arithmetic of that specific market will not allow at your income level. Geographic flexibility, if your work permits it, is among the most powerful and least discussed financial decisions available to you. The fourth thing is to stop treating renting as the wrong answer. Renting is currently cheaper than buying in every single one of the 50 largest metropolitan areas in the United States. Every one, and the average mortgage payment exceeds average rent nationally by 38%. If you are renting and feeling like you are falling behind, the math does not support that feeling. You are preserving liquidity, avoiding the full hidden cost structure of ownership, and keeping capital available that a buyer has locked into equity they cannot access without selling or borrowing. Renting deliberately is a financial strategy. Renting while you wait for the right house at the right number is not a failure. It is patience with a purpose. The fifth thing is to remove the deadline. There is no award for buying a house at 31 instead of 37. There is no financial consequence for waiting until the number works rather than stretching until it technically qualifies. There is only the quality of the life you build inside whatever decision you make, and a house that genuinely fits your income creates a life with room in it, for emergencies, for retirement, for the things that make the house worth having in the first place. Come back with me now to the woman at the beginning of this conversation. She did not make a reckless decision. She made the decision every single person in that room quietly guided her toward, because every single person in that room got paid when she said yes. She was handed a number that answered the wrong question and trusted it the way you trust a professional in a professional setting. She did not know the bank's job was not her job. She did not know there was a second calculation waiting to be done. Now you know. The number on your pre-approval letter is the bank's answer to the bank's question. The number that will actually determine whether your home becomes the foundation of the life you are building or the weight that quietly holds everything else in place is the one you calculate yourself. Before the agent, before the showing, before the offer. In a quiet moment with a real number and an honest question, how much house can you really afford? Not what they will approve of. What you can hold. What leaves room for the rest of your life to exist alongside it? What lets you sleep on Tuesday nights without doing math? That number is waiting for you to calculate it. Everything else comes after. Am Williams. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.